Hey everybody, it's about 5:21. You know, it's kind of unusual. Now, if you go down my playlist, and I'll provide the link down below for the playlist, I did a 4-part audio video on the history of the melting gag, as I call it. Now, I never could figure out a good name for it except for that, or for the meltdown, or just call it the meltdown gag, or whatever. But there's a site, and I'll provide a link to that as well, here on the internet, called, sorry for walking in front there, that's my fault, but called tvtropes, or tropes, if you will. And they basically got a term for every single situation that occurs in live action or animation. It's a different term. They got different kinds of terms and what they mean and where you see examples of them occurring. Well, the melting gag, as you know, like I said, it's something that I never could figure out. I didn't know if there would ever be a term for it. And there's another section, and there's actually a section, or actually two sections, devoted to melting in TV tropes. It's hard to believe, but there is. There's one called I'm Melting, where it basically talks about characters melting, but not in a romantic way, kind of like a death or defeated way. But then it's got a subsection, as it calls it, called Lustful Melt. And that is actually the term they came up with. That is the term the TV tropes came up with, lustful melt. Now you might say to yourself, well, what does that mean? What is lustful melt? Well, lustful melt, believe it or not, is the romantic term used by TV tropes for when a character, male, female, or male, mostly female, melts into a puddle thanks to some kind of romantic situation. And they did give examples of what I've already mentioned in my playlist. They mentioned Swooner Crooner. They mentioned Swooner Crooner, the 1944 Porky Pig cartoon. They mentioned the numerous times it was used in the shows you see in front of you, Tiny Toons and Animaniacs. As a matter of fact, those are both the first volumes, DVD volumes to the series, and both include an episode or two with lustful melt, with the lustful melt term, or the lustful melt effect, if you will, whatever they call it, included. For Tiny Toons, is Looney Beginning, and I think they forgot to add this in because they only mention it with the Christmas special, but it's also, I guess you could say it's a bit of a lustful melt, if you will. I don't know why, but it's also seen in the episode Europe in 30 Minutes. But the Animaniacs volume that I have also includes it, which is Space Probe. Although the alien part, the aliens doing it, is incorrect. Dot doing it, yes. The aliens, no. But then as I read down, I found some other examples as well. I found out that there was a German comic, I think a Russian-German comic, with the title character in the comic strip doing it. I also found out that there were several other cartoons out there that I didn't know about that involved it as well. The animated Lizzie McGuire in the Lizzie McGuire movie, from what I understand, she does it, but I don't know exactly when the animated Lizzie McGuire does it, if you know what I mean. I don't know when she does it. The other examples are shows I didn't even know about until I read about them. Some I did, some I didn't. Like Ed, Edd n Eddy has it. I know about that show. Rocko's Modern Life has it. We know about that show. Trying to think what else. Teen Titans has it in the episode Fracture. The Mask has it in the episode with Candy Babu. What else? I'm trying to think. There's other examples there. I can't think of. Oh, Detective Droopy has it in a Screwy Squirrel or Screwball Squirrel cartoon. Again, there are other examples out there. As a matter of fact, there were 2 examples of shows I didn't even know about until I read about them. One I'd seen just scrolling, just scanning through channels, called Captain Flamingo one time. I think it was on Toon Disney, Disney XD. The episode is called, well, it's actually, Captain Flamingo is actually a cartoon series which has 2 different cartoons in it. It basically contains 2 11-minute cartoons inside. And one of them is called, one of them is, I think, in the 25th episode of the first season. It's called Blindsided, and the main female protagonist in this, actually ends up melting into a puddle with only her pigtails sticking out, and the puddle just starts flowing a little bit more on the ground and all that, with the pigtails going separately away from each other. It's like the pigtails are like right here, and then they just start spreading apart after she melts. So yeah, it was kind of funny because she melted and only sees her eyes left, and they just close up and become part of the puddle. Little puddle, how puddles are, they kind of like they have little spots here and there, and they get basically the funny thing is, she starts spreading out a little bit with her pigtails separated. And then you have Splice, which is a cartoon currently on the Q board, the NBC thing, the NBC cartoon blog on Saturday mornings. And the character in Splice is called Patricia, and the episode is called Amazon, and she meets this lion, this male, this muscular, handsome lion named Eduardo, who has a rooster's tail or something like that. And I think when he gives him, let's say, the people's elbow, when he gives her the people's eyebrow, or the eyebrow, you know what I mean, the arched eyebrow, she melts into a puddle in the chair. Now, she doesn't melt completely to where you don't see nothing but brown and blue. She melts down a little bit to where you see her eyes, the only thing left on top of her, along with her nose kind of melted as well. But a nose, beak, that melted as well. But still, the thing is, that's just an example of the lustful milk being used even currently today. Now, I don't know of any other show out there besides the ones you see in front of you, the ones that I mentioned today that have used the lustful milk. We've seen it in Disney several times. We've seen it with Disney cartoons like, say, Bonkers and a few others. But we have never seen it currently, except for like at the shows I just mentioned. But what surprised me, but the reason I'm making this video, and I know you might think it's a little ridiculous, is just to let you know that the melting gag that I've talked about now has a term. It now has a term, basically thanks to TV Tropes, and it's called Lustful Melt. So, comment, video response if you like down below. This might be only on Twitter for anybody that wants to know, because I kind of have family and friends on Facebook, and family kind of likes to tease a little bit. So, but anyway, it'll be on Twitter, it'll be here on YouTube. But again, if anybody else knows of any animated show, maybe CGI, live action, whatever, that has the lustful melt in there, let me know about it. Video response down below, and I'll talk to you later. Comment if you like to.